Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Wife for Life with none other than your marriage specialist, Michelle McElroy. And guys, I have a special guest for you today. She is a phenomenal woman. She's a businesswoman. She's an awesome mom and wife, and she is my dance partner. Now, she don't know I declare her as that, but she is definitely my dance partner. Guys, help me welcome Maria Hickman. Yay! Hello, Maria.
Thank you so much for having me, and what a great intro.
Awesome. Thanks for coming. I appreciate your willingness, and I cannot wait for people to hear how awesome you are and all the wonderful things you're doing and hear about your wonderful family as well. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, girl, let's see. So I have been married to my husband now for 28 years, Kevin Hickman,
I love
and we have 5 beautiful children. I met Kevin in 1996, and we have moved all around the country. So there's a lot of different things I can share with you about living in all sorts of different places and been through a lot.
Yeah.
I'm also a business owner. I own my own real estate, like not company, but I have my own real estate business. And on my team, I have 7 other realtors on my team. And then I also am a branch manager for mortgages, and I have 6 other loan officers with me on that journey.
Wow.
I am a child of God. He is my rock and my savior. Like, could not life without him. I have 2 brothers. My mom is still alive, and so I get to see her every once in a while. She's in Detroit. But mainly I am just a woman who is extremely passionate about empowering other people and helping people find their best, whether it's my children, the people on my team, my friends, my family. I just really believe in pouring into others to help bring out the best in them. So I'm very passionate about that.
Yes, your fellow board members.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yes.
Yes.
I'm the treasurer, so I deal with all the money. Great, and it can be a little scary at times too, but it's good.
I love it. So, Maria is the treasurer for National Football Wives Association. We both are on the board, and we served Super Bowl together for the first time. I'm trying to think, was that the first time we met in person or no?
No, I think we met in Chicago. I think we met at the Chicago one.
That's right.
Yeah.
But this was the first time we served at the same area together, and we found out we both love music and we both love to dance. So that is when Maria officially became my dance partner. Just saying. Just giving a little background today.
Yeah.
So I love that you kicked it off with talking about, moving and football and how it takes you from place to place. Because and we know NFWA is all about transitions.
Yeah.
But let's start at the beginning. Are you from Detroit? I heard you say your mom is in Detroit.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Detroit. Grew up going to, my thing to do with my dad was go to Lions games. So he had seats that were 2 rows up from the Lions bench right on the 50-yard line.
Wow.
Well, I grew up a huge football fan. Bubba Baker used to put me on his shoulders and run me around the field after the game. Yeah, so I've always loved football. And ironically, in those seats is where I met my husband.
What? Now you got to tell us that story. How like was he already a player, or how did you guys meet?
Well, I'm gonna say that we were the Travis and Taylor of our time.
Y'all originated it.
We did. Okay, we have the fun story on how we met. So, like I said, I grew up going to Detroit Lions games, and I was in the seats that my dad had. And it was we were playing against Washington Redskins. It was a preseason game. And my girlfriends and I used to go to the games because they didn't card us, so I could drink. So we would go and have drinks and have fun. And we were sitting there just having a great time. We got on the Jumbotron doing the Macarena. Like, we were having a blast.
Yeah.
Well, Johnny Morton, who was a wide receiver at the time in Detroit,
Mhm.
He said, "Hey, Hick, look at those chicks up there." And Kevin caught eyes with me.
Uh,
And I guess I said, "You're beautiful," which I don't remember saying this, but he says that I called him beautiful and he had never had a girl call him beautiful before.
well,
So it's like, I have to get this girl's number.
ooh,
So he had a security guard come over and get my phone number.
okay.
I was like too afraid to give my cell phone out. So it was back in the day when we had beepers, paging myself. And I gave him my beeper number and he paged me the next day. Weird story. The phone number that he paged me with was my exact cell phone number, except the last number was a different number. So I didn't call it back because I thought somebody was like messing with me.
Yeah.
And then he went and paged me again. And then he paged me again. I was like, what is this? So I called the number back and sure enough, it was him. We went out that weekend and we've been together ever since.
I mean, come on. That's almost like it was meant to be. One number off.
Right?
Like, I think about me and Ray's phone number right now is one number off. You know what I'm saying?
Because you bought it together. And I'm thinking we must have been in the store probably around the same time getting our phones. I don't know. But, and then he picked me out of 80,000 people. So it was fun. It was a good story.
That is an awesome story and very unique. Like, you hear the college or the high school, very few elementary school stories. You hear in the club, you know what I mean? But not usually at the game, and definitely not because you said he was beautiful. Yeah. And so that's phenomenal. I love it. It does make me want to ask some things of Kevin, though. Like, oh, it took a girl to hit on you, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And I said to him, how many times, like, how many numbers do you have approaching it this way? He still swears to this day it was the first time he ever did it. But I was like, mm-hmm.
I believe it.
Do you?
I do. I believe him. I mean, like, seriously, like, a lot of us are not good at approaching guys. So I could see that.
Yeah.
And if he's not the type that's like either searching or the aggressor type, then yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, good for you, right?
I know.
As it sounds like 28 years later, how long did you guys date before you got married?
2 years. So we dated, we got engaged after a year, and really, honestly, within 6 months, we knew that we were gonna be together. It took him getting released from Detroit and having to go to Philly for him to get off of his booty and ask me because I said, "I'm not moving to Philly without an engagement ring." So, yeah. So then he did. He asked me to marry him, and then we were in Philly for like a preseason, and then we went back to Detroit. So he basically spent his whole career in Detroit.
Yeah. That's crazy, and that actually is a great segue to the transitions that we go through as NFL wives, right? But it also is applicable to people that are married to someone who has a career that the location is ever changing, or people who are in a career where turnover is a lot, because even starting a new different job is a transition. And so tell me, how did you handle, having to move and then move back, and even if just for a preseason, which back then was what, 5 games? Was it
Yeah.
about 5 games back then?
Yep.
Did I'm dating myself too, right?
We're there, yeah.
Yeah, that's a long time, and you're trying to make new friends and everything just to find out 5 weeks later you gotta move. Like today, I saw on Instagram a wife who she owns a nail salon business, but she had just gotten her nails done with her
I
husband's
saw that too, and then she's, like, puking because he got released.
he got released, and now she's gotta, do another team's colors. Like,
Yeah.
but that's a small story, but actually it could be really hard. How did you handle that?
Well, the moving back and forth, I'm a person, I love change. Like, I love excitement. Things just don't scare me. I love to do things that are crazy, and I just feel like there's adventure and there's learning lessons and everything.
Good.
So going back and forth wasn't too bad. His family lived in New Jersey, and so we were able to be real close with them. So that part worked out for me, but the transition of when he got released, like, that was hard because we had just, gotten engaged. We were super, in the happy phase, and he went into just a really dark depression. Just he could have went on, he could have pushed, he could have even went to the, Canadian League or the Europe League. But we had a discussion. We're like, okay, you had a good run. Do we really want to keep chasing this, or do we want to like get on with our life? And even though he was the one who kind of made that decision to say stop, it was still a dark place. Like, he wanted to be in a dark room all the time, watching movies, just really kind of decompressing all the years that he spent in the NFL, realizing that it was over.
Yeah.
And that was hard for me because I'm a fixer. Like, when somebody has something broken, my personality is, all right, let's figure out how do we fix it. Like,
Yeah.
you can have your party or potty time to cry and all that stuff, but let's go. Come on. That's how I am. But he needed way more time than I needed. And that was hard. That was hard. It was to be there for him, to give him his space, to allow him to be cranky and short-tempered, and just allow him to process all of that, because it's grief. That part of his life is dead now. So
Oh my goodness, yes, and nothing that you can do about it, him or you, right? So for you guys, how long did that time period last?
where he was in the darkness,
Mhm.
I would say probably about 4 months.
Ooh,
And then I really kicked it into gear, like, we're not doing this. Like, you're not defined by football. You're defined by you and who you are and what you want to make of yourself. And like, let's get out of here. Let's figure out what you want to do. So he went to the Naval Academy for college. So when he left the Naval Academy, he couldn't graduate because they don't allow you to graduate and then go to the NFL. He couldn't get drafted. So he had to leave school 6 months early in order so that he could get drafted.
mm,
When his football career was over, he really had nothing, because all of those classes that they take at the Navy, weapons specialty, submarine biology, all that stuff, it doesn't translate into another college.
yeah,
And so I told him, you got to go back to school. What do you want to do? And he wanted to go like for athletic administration. University of South Carolina at the time, I don't know if it still is, was a really great program for that.
yeah,
And so he enrolled, and we got him in. And so he started basically as a second semester freshman because of the credits that wouldn't transfer over, even though he did 4 years at the Naval Academy.
ouch,
So he's a very smart guy, super, super smart. So he did the fast track. He got done in 2 years. He went all year long with a
yeah,
full load all year,
mhm,
and got it done in 2 years. And he imagine going back to college and you're done playing your NFL career and now you're back in college with all these college kids, right? It was
yeah,
hard. He was married. He had nothing in common with
right,
them. And so those years were hard. Plus, I was working, supporting him. I was a district manager at Claire's Accessories. Oh my gosh, those days. And I think I was making like $25,000 a year, just
wow,
doing everything we could to survive, to get him through school.
mm,
And then, life happens and things started coming. He ended up doing an internship at the XFL. Through that, he got his career. So
mm,
Bishop Gorman High School out here in Las Vegas hired him as an athletic director,
mm,
which he always knew he wanted to be in a high school. Like, he always knew that was what he wanted to do after his career.
yeah,
For him to get that job right out of high school, or right out of playing, and after he graduated college, was just a really big blessing. So, but it was me snapping him out of it. And I feel like sometimes these guys, like, you do have to give them time to process,
mhm,
give them time to heal, but you also have to be there to kick them in the butt and go, enough, let's go,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's just so difficult because you don't know what you're gonna get until you're there, right? Like I don't know that I ever had to like kick Ray in the butt, but I would say he was probably depressed for 2 years. And Ray is very, he was raised in the church. When we were in college, that's when I got saved, and he was very instrumental in that choice for me. And, like, he's always been very grounded in his faith. Even, like, his peers in football know that, and they still speak that about him. We ran into a guy from college, the other day at a social event, and that's how he introduced him. He's always been grounded in his faith.
Well,
And so a lot of people would say, "Oh, well, how does this happen to somebody that's grounded in their faith?" Well, when you've been doing something since you're 7, you know what I mean? Like,
it's your identity.
it does become their identity, and that's where the problem lies. And so while he did start going back to work sooner than 2 years, but his spirit was just so downtrodden for about 2 years. And I'll be honest, I was not in a good place as far as having the bandwidth or the skill sets to walk him through that. So I probably was a chatty Cathy more than I should have been. Like, get up, come on, you got a family to, take care of.
But you guys had kids, right, at the time?
We had 3 at the time.
Yeah, so you didn't have any kids, so I think that helped a little bit too.
Yeah, and just think about it from my perspective, it was like I could go and get a job, but it'll just barely cover childcare, if childcare. So I might as well stay at home with the kids and you go work, or you stay at home with the kids.
Right.
So anyway, my what I really want to find out from you is, do you feel like there was something specifically you said or did that, like, snap changed it for him, that made him say, "You know what? I gotta get up. I gotta do something different."
Yeah, I think when I had the talk about his identity was football and it was a false identity, I think that is probably the starting point. I don't know if in that moment it hit him, but I think those words probably laid on his heart. Um, we were born and raised Catholic, so we always had a relationship with God, but I wouldn't say at this point in our life we knew God, but we didn't have a relationship with God at this point. So I wasn't talking to him from a faith standpoint. I was more talking to him like, you got to change this. This is not who you are. You are greater than a football player.
Yeah.
And so I think that type of talk eventually just led for him to realize, you know what, she's right. And I kept telling him, you have to find another purpose.
Mm.
We all have to have a purpose. Everyone's got to have a purpose in life. And I knew in my heart of hearts, he had so much to give to the next generation. And being in high school was the perfect place for him because he's a big guy and kids respect him. And then he's an ex-football player. And he's got kids from the first year that he was at Bishop Gorman that still text him to this day on how he helped them in life. So, it was just finding that purpose again. And then once he found it and once he started helping high school kids,
Mhm.
like football was like nothing anymore. He was like, wow, this is what life's about,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
helped a lot.
Yeah, that sounds far more rewarding. And I just want to say what's coming up for me as I hear you say that is, when the Bible talks about life and death is in the tongue, and how we as women have to realize the power that God has given us to speak life into our husbands. Like, we were at, I think, an event held by the trust. This was like a workshop or something, and I just remember, Maria, it was one guy who was so scarred by his ex-wife because she pretty much left him because he wasn't recovering fast enough for her after he got released from the league. And it just broke my heart because he had a position in the organization, and I felt like the decisions that he was making were based on his trauma.
Mm.
And I just thought to myself, if only she would have spoke life into him, there's no telling the greatness he would have achieved.
Yeah.
And if we just recognize the power that we have with the words that we speak to our husbands and the faith that we have in them, I will tell you, I did not get it all right, but I was just like you. I said to him, I said, God's got greater things in store for your future than football. You just can't see it right now.
Yeah. 100%.
And I feel like that's kind of our purpose, is to speak life and help them realize what we see in them, what God has already given us a glimpse of their potential.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. Look, high five. We did that. Well, I love it. Okay. So, transition in itself is challenging. But sometimes we go through other dynamics in the relationship that propose issues and struggles, challenges, sometimes trauma. I've spoken at different conferences and held workshops and seminars. I even have clients that I've spoken to that have struggled with in-laws or loss of job or seeing things differently or different spending habits, things like that, or illness, sickness or something going on. What would you say in this season of life? Because 28, y'all have been through some things. That's almost 3 decades. That is, if we include dating.
Yes. Yep.
So I know for you, it's like, what do I choose to say in this moment? But what would you say is one of the most challenging experiences that you've had in your marriage?
So, after he graduated from USC, in South Carolina, and then we came out here for the XFL and he got the job at Bishop Gorman, we still didn't have kids. So we were still like in our late 20s, or no, yeah, mid to late 20s for the two of us.
Okay.
And we were living in Las Vegas. And you can imagine what Las Vegas brought. And we hung out with a lot of high profile people here and we started going out and partying a lot.
Mhm.
I never went to college, so I never got like the college experience. And and then Kevin went to the Naval Academy, so he didn't get really a college experience.
Right.
And I think we both felt like here we are, we can go have it all. Like this place, I was making great money, he was making great money. Like we just kind of got lost and we started hanging out with the wrong people and we got divided. We had divorce papers on the table at one point,
What?
and we were going to get a divorce. And Kevin came to me and he said, I'm not divorcing you. And I said, but I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. And he said, I don't care. I'm not signing the papers. So you go do whatever you got to do to figure it out, but I'm not divorcing you. And I was like, okay. So it was a struggle for a good 2 years, I would say, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, where we were together, but we weren't really together. Where there was nothing there, like other than we loved each other, we cared for each other, but we were just doing all sorts of craziness. And so those years were really, really hard. But I'm so glad for his provision and the wisdom he had in that moment to understand that I was very young. I met him when I was 20 and I just, I guess I needed just to be crazy for whatever reason. Like I said, I didn't have a relationship with God at the time. I
Yeah.
wasn't grounded in my faith
Mhm.
and it was something that I needed in my life. And he was no angel, okay? But that way, he was no angel, but we both went through some really tough times in Las Vegas when we first moved here,
Yeah.
and those almost took us to divorce. But then I realized, kind of just being out there and meeting other people and seeing things, that like there was nobody else in this world that I wanted to be the father of my children. Nobody else in this world that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with.
Wow.
So then I was like, this is crazy. We need to get our crap together and, whatever. So we did. We ended up finding a church here. We started going to church, getting a lot more of a relationship with Christ instead of it just being a sit down, stand up, I go on Sunday, check off list type of thing.
Yeah.
And that started really changing our lives. And then we adopted our first child, Cade. And just through all of that, that was like probably a good year and a half, 2 years of healing.
Mhm.
Having a baby together was just like it just everything just started to come into play. And making sure that God was at the center of our relationship, He was at the center of our parenting. That was when life completely changed. But it didn't change until we were both ready to
Yeah.
have God at the center. Like I
Mm.
couldn't force him to do it. He couldn't force me to do it. We were patient with each other. We held on to each other until both of us were ready. And then it just was a beautiful reunion. We ended up renewing our vows and it was great.
That part. I love every bit of that. What's the age difference between you guys?
4 years.
Oh, okay, 4 years.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I love that he led the charge in that, saying, "I'm not gonna divorce you."
Mhm.
I love that, because, I think, and from my experience, it's harder to get a man to change his decision than it is to get a woman to change her decision.
Right.
And so for it to initiate with him, for him to put his foot down and really just kind of set a boundary like I'm not doing that.
Mhm.
And I can't make you do anything, but this is where I am, this is where I stand, and I'll be here when you're ready to meet me at that.
Mhm.
And the same with you guys' faith, that you guys both decided that this is what you wanted to do. And that alone is a blessing because that could have been a struggle as well in itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, what made you guys adopt before you gave birth?
So we had been married for 6 years, and even though we were having troubles in those 6 years, w- we weren't preventing pregnancy, but I wasn't getting pregnant. And then when we finally got like things together and we got back together and we were really trying, I wasn't getting pregnant.
Mm.
And so we had came together and said, okay, we always wanted to adopt. Like that was part of it. We always knew we wanted to do it. We said we can either do in vitro and spend the same amount of money, or we can adopt and have a child. And both of us, it was like no hesitation.
Mm.
We wanted to adopt. And so we started the process with adoption, and it was God hands all over that. Like the girl that was pregnant when she was 15 at the time. And when she walked into the adoption agency with her parents, Kevin had just played on a foursome of golf with her stepdad that walked in with her.
What?
Yeah, and then she had the same OB that I had. It was just crazy. And
Yeah.
Kate and Anthony, especially growing up, my son who I gave birth to,
Mhm.
they look so much alike. Nobody ever believed that they were, not biological brothers.
Yeah.
So yeah, we adopted, and then we got pregnant with Anthony, got pregnant with Colton, got pregnant with Davin. I was like, oh, no more boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then we adopted my daughter Nevaeh after I had Davin, and so
Uh-huh.
I got my girl too.
You got your girl.
Yeah.
I love it. So, where did that desire to adopt come from? Did someone in your families do that? Or, where did that come from?
So Kevin played in Detroit with Jeff Hardings, and then Jeff ended up going to Pittsburgh and playing. And they have 9 kids, and they adopted some of their children.
Okay.
And I think that had an influence on me, like seeing them adopt and their beautiful family and how different it was. It was biracial. I love that. I love that it wasn't just, the same. That intrigued me. But I think ultimately it was just like proving that you don't have to give birth to love a child the same way as you do like You can
Yeah.
make a difference in a child's life. You can do things. You don't have to give birth. And
Yes.
so that was something that really intrigued me, and they had a big part in shaping Kevin and I. They were very grounded in their faith, from the time we met them in Detroit, and even when Kevin and I were going through our stuff in Vegas, they flew out to Vegas to talk to us, to really, like, put their hands on us and be like, "You guys gotta stop this," kinda thing, and they have been a constant through our whole life, just being there for us, good friends. And, we really did look up to them. They're great people. They actually just became grandparents, so,
Oh.
yeah, it's really cool, but so I think they had a big influence on us. I think that was a big part of it. Yeah,
Mhm. I love it.
yeah.
So when you think about marriage, and the journey that you guys have had, is there anything that you would identify and say,
Oh, sorry, hold
oh, that's the dog.
on.
It's okay.
Uh, come here.
I love it.
Sorry, hopefully you can cut this out.
No, no, it's a cameo.
Yeah, they're like, "Please come and see me." Oh,
Um,
stop, stop, stop. Um, okay, well, hopefully you can't hear her in the background. We can just keep going.
yeah,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. So, so when you think about your journey of marriage and all that that has entailed, is there one thing that you could identify that you say, you know what, I would have done that differently?
Um, I I don't wanna say I would I don't wanna change when I got married, but I think I probably would have gotten married later. I think I met Kevin very young, like I said, and I think that had a lot to do with, like, a lot of the problems that we went through because I feel like I didn't I didn't live life, so to speak. So I think I probably and like I said, I was 20, so I hadn't I hadn't even been able to go out and do things yet.
Yeah.
Um, so I think if anything, I probably would have lived my life a little bit. Like I always wanted to live in Chicago. Like I always wanted to go there and be single, you love Chicago. And I never got to do a lot of that stuff
Yeah.
because I was in a serious relationship at 20 and then I got married at 22. So
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing, but I wouldn't change who I married. I wouldn't change our life, but would have liked to have lived a single life a little bit longer. I think that would be the only thing I would change.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. I get that. I think a lot of times, when we think about history, women always got married young. And I think sometimes, especially because the era we grew up in wasn't very far from that, that's the mindset, we're always looking forward to that union. And then there's the fear of your parents that you may not get married, or if you wait too long, the clock is ticking, all those
Yeah.
things. And so I do think sometimes when the opportunity comes, we kind of grab it and go
Yeah.
with it. But I also think, and I want to hear you chime in on this, working with couples, I also think there could be some setbacks to waiting and living a single life for too long too, because then you kind of get set in your ways and it's kind of like, oh no, you do things that way. I don't do things that way. So we're not meant to be with each other versus when you're young and you just, I hate to say it, but you just kind of don't know better.
Right.
You just kind of grow up together.
There definitely is that. Yeah, I think that's an advantage for sure. I remember our other couple friends who got married later, they were like, I remember they were going through marriage counseling, and the one thing she said was like, what if it was something about cereal, like either putting the cereal back or something? And I looked at her and was like, are you serious? You think that's gonna be a problem? Like, because she was set in her ways to your point, and so was he. And it was like, how are we gonna mesh this? And I'm like, you just do. Like, people have separate bank accounts. Are you kidding me? No. Like, you just mesh it, make it all happen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you always have one foot out the door, I feel like. So yeah, I think there definitely is there's probably like a really perfect time maybe, like, you get a little bit of your single life out, not to where you get too rigid in your ways, and then, you can kinda come to together and be a little bit more flexible on stuff.
Yeah.
But I think 20 was just, it was young. It was
Yeah. I mean, you weren't even legal yet.
no, not at all.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get that. And I do feel blessed that, we both got a chance to do college life, even though we dated mostly during
Yeah,
college life. But at least we did, like, I had my own apartment in college and things like that that I got to experience prior to Ray and I get married. So,
yeah.
yeah.
That helps, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so what advice would you give a female, a woman that's going into marriage, she's engaged or in a serious relationship? What advice would you give her, or suggestions or input would you give her that you think would be super beneficial in preparing her for married life?
So men cannot read your mind.
Okay.
Have to tell them what you want. And it's not that he doesn't love you any less. And it's not that he doesn't care. It's just men don't think like us
Mhm.
and they can't read our minds. So if you want something, just tell them what you want. And I know it takes like the surprise out of things, but I feel like so many times if I would have just said, I really don't want a spa treatment for my birthday. I would rather have this, this, and this.
Yeah.
It would eliminate so many of the birthdays where I was just like, another spa treatment. And not that I didn't appreciate it, but it was like,
Right.
can't you get creative? And don't you think about me more than just a spa? Like, I used to get so irritated with it. But if I would have just said, hey, this year I'd really love this, this, and this, I would have got what I wanted and we would have all been happy. So I think just sometimes, or if the dishes need to be done and you need help in the kitchen, don't think that he's going to be on the couch going, oh, I should probably help her with the dishes.
Right.
Just say, honey, do you mind emptying the dishwasher while I do the washing? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't be afraid to do that. And that would have saved me a lot of like animosity through my marriage if I would have started that early on.
Yes, because you can start having contempt with your spouse if you don't communicate. And one of the things that we do when we coach couples through premarital counseling is we try to tap on the top 10 reasons why people get divorced. And I actually created a workshop from it. It's called Expectation Station because it's like you have all these expectations. Some of them are unconscious too, Maria.
Yeah.
And you're sitting up there with an attitude and they don't even know that you're expecting that of them. And on top of that, they may be very open to providing that if you would just let them know.
Yes.
So I love what you're saying, but I will have to say, when you started off, I thought you were going to say something like, "Men are slobs." Like I was like, "Oh my God, where is she going?"
What is she gonna say there? What is she? No, my husband was at the Naval Academy. He's like Mr. He folds his shirts perfect. Like, no slobs there.
Yeah, my dad was in the Navy, and when I tell you, he would rip my bed sheets off and tell me to make my bed over again and again. "You don't know how to fold the corners yet." I'm like, "Dad, please, it's just a bed. I'm gonna get in it tonight and mess it off."
I know that was always my way of thinking too, but like Kevin's always like he still makes the bed every morning. It's very important to him to have that rigid.
Yeah. Which is a great mindset. I read that that's a millionaire mindset.
That's what I've heard too, except I don't have the million.
Right. Can I get the million? I'm made that, please. Thank you very much. Yeah. Great. Okay. So we determined that Kevin is not a slob. So
Yeah.
tell me, what would you say? People say marriage is so hard, and I'm not saying it doesn't come with its challenges, but I'm like you. We've been married 29 years. We'll be 30 in January. We've been together 33. That'll be 34 in January. Yay!
Yeah, that's awesome.
And yes, we've had our challenges, but I would say my personal experience has mostly been rewarding. And so when I think about Ray, I could name several qualities or characteristics that he has that makes me feel God made him specifically for me.
Mhm.
What would you say, or and you can name as many as you would like, or one very important one, but also tell us why. What makes you feel like, what characteristic, what quality or trait about him that makes you feel like God made Kevin just for you?
100% his patience. I am a fiery Italian woman and I have calmed down a lot as I've gotten older, but I've always been a spitfire. Like I can go from 0 to 60 like that if you mess with me in the wrong way. I'm the kindest human being in the world, but like I can also kind of go off. And so he has taught me to breathe and he's taught me to just calm down and not like go so fast and get so crazy all at once. But even when I'm crazy, even if it's with him, he's a calming force. Like he just kind of takes it down. He shows me different perspectives. He's always like, his famous thing is there's a reasonable explanation for that. And to me, there's never a reasonable explanation.
Right?
I yell at people, you know? And Kevin's always like, so his patience, because he has been the calming force since the day we met. Like, he just always makes me see the other side of things and helps me stay rational and not go off the handle. There are times where I don't listen to him and I regret it because I should have, because he does have that wisdom to kind of calm me down. So 100% his patient level is it where I see, because I don't know many other people that could put up with me. I look at myself and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I know like I'm a prize. I'm a jewel,
That's
but
right.
there's not many people that can handle me, and so I definitely know we were perfectly matched by
Yeah.
God.
No, I love that. I think that's so beautiful. Especially because, I see how those things can translate both personally and professionally.
Mhm.
And that too is how I feel like Ray has been a blessing to me. Like he definitely pours into me personally, but the way he pours into me really helps me professionally, like, in ways that, we don't even have time for me to list. But I just feel very blessed by that. So, okay. I always like to ask 2 more questions and then we're out of here. So I
Alright.
always like to ask this following question because oftentimes you hear people that are not married, especially women, they're creating this list. They're like, oh, he needs to do this and this and this and this. And I think that's great. You gotta know what you want, right? But I also think that and strongly encourage us to make a list of how we wanna show up as well as a wife. What kind of wife do you wanna be? In the hard times, how do you wanna show up in the marriage, Because it's easy to have all these expectations, but the challenges come when someone has expectations of you.
Mhm.
So, as you see, AIM, that's the name of my business, Activating Intentional Marriages. And the key word is intentional. So, my question for you is how do you intentionally love Kevin? Just tell us one way so we can all learn and start to implement that in our marriage. How do you intentionally love him the way he desires to be loved?
Yeah, so this is probably the area where I would say I need the most work on as a wife, because I am such a career-driven woman, and I have 5 kids, and I just get busy, and then, you know, he's the last one to get served, right? Like, I've got all this other stuff I gotta take care of, and then there's Kevin.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can say one thing that I am really good at, and I do feel, like, confident saying it, is I am his biggest cheerleader.
Mm.
So when he needs encouragement, when he's not feeling something's right, I don't, even if he's wrong in the situation, I will find where he's right and I will push that forward. I'll still tell him eventually where I feel like, okay, you probably shouldn't have done this or that, but I'm always cheering him on. I'm always telling him, go for it. Like if there's a job promotion or there's a different position that he has no experience in, I'm like, just go for it. Just try it. Like, what are they going to do? Tell you no? And I have been we have had to move. We kind of talked on that in the beginning.
Mhm.
We moved from Las Vegas, then we went to California, then we went to Arizona. From Arizona, we went to Ohio, and then Ohio back to Vegas. So
Wow.
we've done it, and it's been for his jobs.
Mhm.
And I have always been like, it's fine. We'll figure out. We got to move with 5 kids. We'll figure it out. Like, I don't care where I'm at as long as I'm with you, and all the other stuff in between, we'll figure it out. It always works out. Like, we've never been on the street. We always figure it out. So I think, like, making him, because I think men want to feel secure, right? They want to feel like they are the guys taking care of things. And in not every situation do they feel that. So I try and help him understand that even in the lower times, even when times maybe you aren't the man,
Okay.
you are still amazing. You still need to push through. We got this together. It's not you holding the weight, it's us doing it together. So I I need a lot of work in that part, but I think that's probably the main part where I can say this is where I do a good job with him.
Okay, I love that. Now, when you say cheerleader, are I imagine the little skirt and the pom pom. Is that what you do? You like Kelly?
Oh yeah,
That's right. Spice it up. That's what I'm talking about. Y'all ain't 28 for no reason.
exactly. Exactly.
I love it.
But
And thank you so much for being transparent about that because we all have areas that we can grow in,
yeah,
and sometimes our growth is being hindered by our honesty. We have to accept the truth of the matter. And we're never going to be perfect at every role we have in our life at the same time. But
exactly.
we can recognize when there are areas that require our attention the most. And sometimes in this moment or in this season of life, it may be our husbands.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I get that. And that's phenomenal that not only that you have the wherewithal to recognize that about yourself, but that you also recognize your strength and how you are intentionally feeding him. And maybe even later, that could be a conversation that you guys have as a result of the podcast. So,
Yeah.
and I say that not just for you, but for anybody that's listening, even Michelle.
Michelle, wherever I hear what's on.
Exactly, right? Because sometimes, and that's the funny thing, like, I feel like God has a sense of humor because sometimes the very topics that come up during our podcast are areas that I need to be listening to, So,
Yeah, and I'm sure, like, people can sit on here and like, I've talked about all the wonderful things, and I talked about hard times, but I just think it's important for people to know, especially if they're, like, in a season of where they're drained right now, they're in a drought, right? Like, I have gone through so many droughts in my marriage where I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and I'm like, "Oh, what are we doing here?" But the thing is the divorce has never since that time in Vegas when we almost did it, we vowed to never bring it up again.
yeah,
It's not an option in our house. We will figure things out. And you are going to have peaks and valleys in marriages. It is not always fun. It's not always sexy. It's not always blissful. You go through really hard times where sometimes you can't even stand each other. But the reason why we've made it 28 years is because divorce is not an option and being miserable is also not an option. So
yeah,
when we start to feel that way, it's a clue to get things together and start figuring out what is really bothering you. That's another thing that, and I'll say this real fast, that I feel like I did early on in my marriage
Yeah.
is when he would say, "Well, what's wrong with you?" Nothing. Nothing's wrong. And I just sometimes I just didn't know what was wrong. Sometimes I was probably menstrual or something. I don't know,
yeah.
uh but I think figuring out what is wrong and really being honest and open and discussing it, even if it's painful, is imperative to being able to get out of those valleys when you're in them.
Yes, I totally agree. You got to have those courageous conversations. They're meaningful. When I talk to my clients, I always ask them when they think of the word conflict, what words come to mind? And oftentimes they're very negative, discouraging words. But if we could shift that perspective from a negative to a positive, if we could look at conflict as opportunities to grow and understanding each other and grow in our intimacy and our bond. And I'm not talking about sexual intimacy, I'm talking about emotional intimacy, the type that gives you that staying power that lets you know that this is my person and they get me, they see me, they hear me, they understand me, they truly love me, you know? And so I really love what you're saying there. We can't, you can't grow and run away at the same time. You have to confront the conflict in
Yep.
order for, growth to happen. So kudos to you guys for that and talking it out. Because even if it doesn't go as you hoped it would, come back to the table, schedule an appointment where you can both come back to the table and be prepared because that's not a failure.
Right.
You still grew, even though you might have butted heads again. You still grew in that moment. And now, next time, you come together even better, even stronger. So, yeah, I love that. And I also want to hear from you this last thing that I think is so important for us as wives to think about when considering marriage, but also once we're there. When you think about the term, which is the title of the podcast, wife for life, when you think about that phrase, what does a wife for life look like, act like? What is a wife for life to you from your perspective, Maria?
Well, I think somebody who is supportive in times, whatever that means, like whether it is just patting somebody on the back and telling them, all right, you've cried enough, your pity party's over, let's get it together, or whether it's taking on the financial burden because that's your time that you have to do it, or recognize it ain't your time to be home with the kids. Whatever season of life you're in, recognizing that you're there as a support to not just him, but your entire family. Like this is when the nucleus is good, we're good, right? The husband and wife relationship is. So just making sure that you're flexible, you're fluid, you're willing to take on whatever role is needed at the time
Mhm.
and not holding animosity towards it. And I say that because I've done it. I've had to change roles and I've held on to animosity and still sometimes do to this day, but I'm recognizing it and I'm working on it. But I think being a wife for life is just recognizing that you are the partner and it's not always equal. I don't like when people say it's 50-50. Sometimes it's 90-10. Sometimes it's 100 to 0. Sometimes it's 20 to, 80. Like it's not always equal, but recognizing that you're in it to win it, you're there for life, and you're going to be fluid and take on whatever role is needed at the time.
Awesome. Awesome. Supportive. Wife for lives are supportive, guys. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I enjoy every moment of this episode. Thank you, Maria. I appreciate your transparency, your vulnerability, your keeping it realness. I feel like this is a moment like for a dance break.
Oh, let's go.
Oh, she did it. She did it. Like you had that little rotating thing.
We're in sync, girl. We're in sync.
I know, hands both went up. But seriously, like I am so appreciative of everything that you share. You dropped some gems and some jewels that I think will definitely help me, but definitely help some other wives that are listening or some upcoming wives help prepare themselves for marriage. And that's what this is all about. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your beautiful life and family with us. And hey, I'm looking forward to another opportunity to maybe have you back again.
I would love it. Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
Awesome. And hey, good luck with all your businesses because, man, you are career driven and a dynamo. And many prayers and blessings to your family and your marriage. Have a good one. And you guys, too, have a good one. Have a good time. And if you had a good time listening and watching Maria talk about being a wife for life, please share this with another wife or a potential wife. We all need to grow together and bond together to do this thing called marriage. It's not an easy journey, but it is very rewarding, especially when we got sister friends like you. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Wife for Life with none other than your marriage specialist, Michelle McElroy, signing off until next time. Happy loving.